Hey everybody, I have this Montech Air X case that came with a fan hub attached, and I'm having some trouble with it, and I think several people are, and I wanted to cover what that trouble is and how I worked around it. So let's get started. On this side of the case, here we have the fan hub that came with the Montech. And I'm going to cover what all these wires are, where they go, what they're supposed to be doing, and the trouble that I'm having. And maybe this will help you if you're having any troubles too. So these top four and these two on the side, these go to the ARGB, the addressable RGB, 5 volt, 3 pin, addressable RGB wire. Now, it's important to say that a ARGB fan is going to have two different connectors, right? One is for the lights, the ARGB. One is going to be for power. And that's what this bank is down here. This is to actually spin the fan for fan RPM and fan power, to move the fan blades around. And then this is to illuminate the LEDs. Okay, so these four and these two are all for lights. See, they say LED lights right on them. It's pretty well marked. And then these all say fan, 1 through 6. This is for fan power. Okay, these are actually the two front case fans. That's the back fan. This white one is going to my CPU fan, for my CPU cooler. Okay, this LED switch comes around here and ends up here. That's this switch here, so that you can click this and cycle through the default light profiles that came pre-programmed, so you can change the colors, make them rainbow, make them move around in different colors, or go to solid colors, fading colors, those kinds of things. It has a pretty nice selection of color schemes built right in that you can try just by, if you just keep clicking, it'll cycle through all of them. And I don't know how many there are, but there are many. Okay. So this plug here goes to this wider cable, which comes down to here. That's the serial ATA connector, which powers all of this. It powers all the lights and powers all the fan speeds, fan power. All right, now, this is where things get interesting. Okay, so these connect to the fans, right? The lights of the fan itself. This connects to serial ATA power, and the other end of this is going in here somewhere to my power supply. So it's power supply to serial ATA to this guy. These are all going to the fans directly. Fan, right? Okay. Let's cover we covered the LED switch. Now this is the interesting one. This one connection splits into two. One of these goes to the motherboard and plugs into a RGB header on the motherboard. One of these goes to the motherboard and plugs into a system fan or chassis fan header. That is the one that I was having some trouble with. And let's talk about that for a second. So what that should do is, this one should be sending information that says, hey motherboard, here's all the information about my lights. Let's work together and control the lights. This one should be saying, hey motherboard, here's all the information about my fans. Let's control the fans. This is where I'm getting into some trouble. So here I am in the MSI BIOS, and what happened was, no matter where I connected the system fan connection on my motherboard, I tried it on the CPU, I tried it on system 1, 5, 6, 4, I tried it in any of the available ports on the motherboard, I was always getting 0 RPM, 0 RPM. For whatever reason, my motherboard refused to see it. I tried, toggling PWM or DC, smart fan. I tried messing with all these settings, nothing. I was always getting 0 RPM. And so what I did simply was disconnect the fan power and plug it directly into the motherboard. So now I'm getting fan information. This is one of the front fans, this is the other front fan, and this is the rear case fan. And then my CPU fan was working fine because my CPU fan was always working fine because it was always set up this way, right? I had always split the CPU fan in this way. And let's see what that looks like inside the motherboard. All right, so like we were talking about, this is sysfan 3 and 2. These are going to my front fans directly. And then that white one is my CPU fan, you can see. So if you try to imagine, the fan has 2 wires. I've got 1 wire going to the motherboard, 1 wire going to the ARGB hub. And doing it this way is getting me the results I'm hoping for, which is being able to use the BIOS to control the fan speed. And the other one's down here. Can't see it as easily. That's for the rear. I've got some system fans down here. You can see sysfan 5. That's where the other one's plugged in. So if you're having a similar problem, you can do the same thing that I was doing, which is plug these in directly to the motherboard, and then you'll be able to control the fan speed right from the BIOS. Otherwise, if I didn't go sort of half and half like that, like I said, I was getting 0 RPM. This isn't probably the optimal way to do this, or maybe it is, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to try what would happen if that hub worked correctly because it was never working correctly. So I'm gonna see if I can find any Montech support forums or something that might shed some light on why it's doing this. My BIOS has the latest firmware updates and things, so I don't think it's the BIOS. Clearly the fan ports themselves are working because it's now controlling the fans, but for whatever reason, the hub and the motherboard aren't talking together correctly for fan RPM, and I wanted to make sure that the motherboard could adjust the fan speeds based on temperatures and things that it needed to, and have control directly over these fans. So that's how I solved the problem. I hope that helps someone else at least get a workaround going. I want to note that these fans were spinning when I had them plugged in like that. That's because they were plugged into the hub was getting power, and the hub was just spinning them at whatever, I don't know, default speed they were at. But I don't think they were spinning and ramping up as things got hotter. And so I wanted to make sure that the motherboard was in direct control of these and not just running them at a single default speed. If you're going to direct connect your fans to the motherboard, you're going to want to set them up like this. Ignore the CPU one for the moment. These are the 2 case fans, and it's running in DC. DC, and then the rear system fan DC. The 3 fans that came with this case are not PWM fans. How can we tell? I'll show you really quickly. Let's take a look really closely at these front case fans. Here's one nice and close. And what do you see? How many wires? 1, 2, 3, and an empty spot. Same with this one. 1, 2, 3, and the last one is empty. These are the 2 front case fans, the big 200 millimeter. Likewise down here. Here's the rear case fan. Likewise on this bottom case fan, we only have 3 wires. 1, 2, 3. Right? And the 4th port is open. On a PWM fan, for example, the one that came with my CPU cooler, you see 1, 2, 3, and a 4th wire. So that's PWM. The 4th wire is for this pulse width modulation. The other 2, we have 2 for power, ground and power, and then the other one is just speed or telemetry, and then the 4th one is the pulse width modulation. So if you see, that's how to tell. If you see these, it's 1, 2, 3, so we have ground, power, and RPM speed, but we do not have the 4th wire, which is the one responsible for PWM. So even though it connects to the same place, they are not the same. Yes, PWM, not PWM. Here in my setup, I've got the CPU fan set with PWM, and then I've got everything else set as DC, DC, DC. Okay, hope that helps.